Hello YouTube family. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. I've been away for too long, especially since my videos won't post. I have one that is currently just loading and loading. But anyways, I am here to share some information avec vous, with you guys, some healing that has come up for me. And it's in the last week, in the last couple of days, it's been kind of like coming in every different direction. The information that can support my healing, that's given me clarity. So I've been receiving lots of clarity. I'm just gonna adjust my chair more. I've been receiving lots of clarity, and I thought, oh, this makes sense. So the other day, so what I did was, because there were different videos that were arriving at my doorstep, right? Like on my social media, that were kind of creating a trigger, and then I would investigate the trigger, and then I would open this page, and then they would give me this information, and then I kind of just kept following that, and then more would show up on my doorsteps, and I kept following that path. And then it kind of like, it was so intriguing because it felt like it took me out of the maze. So before I go anywhere too far, hi there, I am Fozia. You have tuned into my page where I'm doing my healing work to return to my heart, to return to the core and center of who I am. I'm doing my healing work because it's important. It allows me to be, why is it important to heal? Well, when you heal, you're more stronger, right? You have your strength back in terms of your emotional strength, your mental, your physical, and to be able to have a better enjoyment of this human experience that we chose to be part of. So that's what I'm doing. I'm allowing life, allowing divinity, allowing source, allowing God to open places that I have kind of buried, and letting those wounds be aired so that they can heal, so that I can be the full, authentic, best version of myself, right? I've understood from another video that I watched, because I questioned this, right? So that video gave me the answer, which was, I know that I am in this journey, in this human body, to be a healer. I am a healer. But to understand that the way I'm here to heal myself and to inspire and show others how to heal themselves, because we all are here to heal ourselves, right? Not just that we're all here to heal ourselves, but we actually are the ones who heal ourselves. And so to understand that I was a wounded healer, which made so much sense, because I'm like, you know, when you're asking like, God, why am I going through all these like trials and tribulations, and why am I being the one who's being like tossed and turned? Why me? And to understand like what you go through is what you will then use as your purpose to serve humanity. So to finally get that awareness, to understand that, helped a little bit. And then I was like, okay, you know, what else? Like, what else do I need to know? And at the same time, I learned that you don't have to like heal everything from your ancestors, because the fear was like, if you don't do it, then your kids will. And I was like, no, it's going to end with me. But to also understand like, no, you can give it back to those whom are supposed to heal this, and they actually can heal it from where they are, which was fantastic to hear. So before we go too far, I just need to, I don't know why my nose is running. Let's do 3 conscious breath, okay? Hand to heart. Ooh. You know, when I start going, I just need to pause, take 3 conscious breath, right? Okay, let's go. la. And I hope you guys don't mind that I'll be eating and drinking my tea while talking to you guys, because why not? I have my faux Journey Across the Bridge cup here. I'm having some tea. So this is, my tea includes clove, cardamom, cinnamon, dry mint leaf, some lemon, and then I put some ground ginger. I put some turmeric, a little bit of black pepper, and I already mentioned lemon. And so that's my tea. Some of the ingredients are boiled together, and the rest I just added on top. And sometimes I add a little bit of cayenne, and when you put that cayenne in there, you start like warming up. You're like, ooh, am I in a sauna? What's happening? I feel the warmth from inside. So we're gonna have a conversation because it's been too long. It's been too long. And I like to come and share with you guys when it's really like a tool that is helping me or has given me awareness, right? And sometimes it's inspired, and I love for it to be divinely. Was that a squirrel or a skunk? Lately, I've been like skunk every other day or every next day, like today, tomorrow. This few days back to back. So anyways, how are you liking my style? A la Africaine. Have my hair tied up in the front only because I am redoing my twist, and not only, but I tie my hair because that's part of my custom. So every now and then I tie it up, but today is because my twists are not done, and it's gonna be nice and long twist. Okay, focusing. Okay, so don't mind me if I can't see what I'm reading, because lately I need to improve my eyesight, and it could be that I am developing supernatural seeing abilities, and maybe that's why my eyes have been like going through this transition, or maybe I just need to start eating differently. There was a clip that I had watched in terms of certain foods and what they're good for, and apparently sweet potatoes are great for brain fog and improving your eyesight. And I was like, both, literally, I need both. So anyways, let's get to it. So I was watching this video where this lady talks about her healing ability is where she taps into generational trauma and how it's passed down, right? And how it's showing up in your life, because sometimes you're experiencing something for years and you don't understand what it is. You don't know what's going on, and it's something that has been passed down. So it's not something you yourself literally have experienced, but it's been passed down. So, and you know, when I start taking notes and writing things down, there's really a transition. It's almost like a teaching tool. So it's gonna be, it might be a long video, it might be a short one, je ne sais pas. But yeah, okay, we'll do it. This bright light here that I put is not really helping, and my glasses is broken, so don't mind me, okay? Don't mind me. Generational terror, unsupported generation of feeling. Okay, so she was helping the guy identify what was the emotion that was trapped within his energy field. And so for me, as she was doing it for him, I was tuning into myself and I was asking myself. So what had come up for me was creative insecurity, terror, and feeling unsupported. So I believe that in terms of the terror, and I was so grateful for that awareness to come up. So I was I made sure that I thank God for that. And the terror itself, oh my God. So my mom, when she was in the 80s, she had experienced my parents as a young family with their young with my siblings and stuff have experienced few civil wars, right? And there's a story where my mom tells where she was they were there was like bombs being like thrown and grenades and all that stuff, so they had to leave their home and everyone was leaving the city, and they get to this one house, and in this one house they literally entered and they were like "Lalaikum," and it's a way that we welcome people. It's like saying hi, how are you, like come in. And they go in and she's like, not even 5 minutes after, like not even, she basically said to my dad, this is not safe, we can't stay there. So they got up and like started walking away, and she said not even like 5 minutes, that same house where they were was bombed. Like this is, I think, right before I was born. So talk about terror. And then before even like my dad was a young man, like the oldest for my grandparents, like he was like in his late teens or early 20s or whatever. And my grandfather was like a political figure, and he was detained and he was caused, like he was chained around his waist, and they removed his top shirt, like it was just with the pants, or his trousers, like those long trousers that you usually wear underneath like just traditional garments. And he was pulled, him and his oldest son, I believe, around the whole town, around the whole neighborhood to humiliate him. So when I think about those things in terms of humiliation and terror and all the different stuff that my ancestors have experienced, and just going through war, and from my mother's side being from Haiti, and her father being like part of working in the political system as well, and having to go through all these different civil wars, it's a lot. And I think more and more now we're more conscious of how it's passed down and how we are bringing it to the forefront and healing and releasing it so we don't pass it down, right? But I don't think in terms of emotional well-being was really addressed back then. Like not even my parents' generation as much. And I think if they have, it's in the more recent years, like in the last 10 years or so, that more of that awareness has been like, they've been receiving that clarity. And so when I think about that, I think about how much times I would just have these fears of not feeling safe, and not only from my own childhood experiences, but some of them were like just exaggerated fears that I couldn't even understand. Like I would have nightmares about experiences that basically weren't from this lifetime of an experience. So just to know, first of all, like, identifying, because I watched this video and I don't know if I have it written down here. I hope I do, and then I get to repeat it after. But it talked about how if you cannot name it, you can heal it. And I don't know if that's 100% true, because I feel like sometimes, depending on if it's ready to be healed, that energy, you don't even have to know what it is. You don't even have to know from which lifetime or whose energy it is, who experienced it, which grandparent, which ancestor. It just comes to the surface, and when it's ready to be released, it gets released. So in terms of that, I feel like the terror, to understand, like, it might not necessarily be what I've experienced, or maybe it's something I experienced in the womb. I can like say, okay, that's what they say. So it's not happening in my reality, because it comes back to anxiety, right? Like, when people are having anxiety, is a projected fear into the future. So one of the practices you can do is you can sit back and say, okay, right now where I am sitting, is this thing that I fear happening? Right? Is it happening right now in this very moment? And so you get to bring yourself into this present moment and understand, like, oh no, this is not happening right now. So where is this coming from? So it brings you back to the present moment, because there is really just the present moment. There isn't anything else. The future hasn't happened yet. The past is gone. Like every moment is the present, is the future, is the past. It's all happening all at once, and we need to understand, like, bringing our awareness to this moment is what allows us to have this clarity. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So in terms of generational, sometimes if you're having a certain emotion and you feel like this feeling stuck somewhere emotionally, maybe it's not something that you personally have experienced. Maybe it's passed down. And being able to journal and sit down and try to understand that is one way that can allow you to bring it to the surface, you know, and through therapy might also be one of those things. And then there are people who are gifted with the ability to kind of like pinpoint what type of emotion it is, which level of generation it was passed down from, which then can help you too to say, oh, okay, you know, I've been tasked with this and I'm supposed to, you know, receive the lesson and release it, or I'm just supposed to release it, or I'm supposed to send it back to that, you know, ancestor who needs to release it, right? And so that's what I wanted to share in terms of what was coming up for me. It was creative insecurity and not really trusting in my creative abilities, right? And I thought that was so true, because I am very creative. Like, not only do I like to doodle and draw and create these different images that are just free flowing when I'm doing it, but at the same time I love home decor. Like, it's my thing. It comes to me so naturally. And at the same time, fashion, I know, like, it's something that has been so overexpressed or whatever, but it's really one of those things where sometimes you really have the skill or you don't, and sometimes you can learn it. But it's something that was always my passion. I've always been in love with fabric and the texture and like the patterns and the print and all of that stuff, and I haven't been really trusting myself into stepping into that. And so just to allow myself to bring it up and say, hey, you know, like, let me turn this light back on. Where is it? Okay, here it is. So it's like having some insecurity around that and not really taking it as like believing in it. And so sitting with that and understanding, hey, like, why is there an insecurity around that? Why aren't you trusting that ability? Okay. So what was the other thing? There's a few. So like I said, we're gonna go through it. The next one, expressing being your authentic self. Ask for what you need. Be brave enough and honest enough to ask for what you need, to point out when you don't like something, and to explain to people that what are the things that mean a lot if they do them for you. So this is about a video where the guy was talking about how, you know how sometimes if you're if you're a person who's a giver, and if you are always in that space where you are just giving, and if you see like it's not being reciprocated, you might stop doing that. So what he goes to say is, you know, like, be yourself, be the giver, the nurturer, the person that you are. Don't stop being that, but to make sure you let people know, you know, like, ask for what you need. And when I watched that video, I remember thinking, like, you know, this asking for what you need was so hard, just hearing it. And of course there are spaces where I ask for what I need, but when it's saying to step into kind of like your core, right? You know, that safe space in your belly where you feel worthy and loved and believe. Like, I remember when I used to watch Joel Austin, he talks about how he believes in, like, you know, people want to do good for him. He believes in, like, just having that type of like mindset where, oh, people love doing nice things for me, or people love being kind to me. Like, just putting yourself in that space of believing that good is coming for you, and people want to do good by you. And having, for that not being my experience, I've been kind of like molded into, I need to figure this out myself, right? But then what that causes you to do, no matter what type of person you are, if you are giving in a certain way and is not reciprocated, you tend to kind of say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna change that. And that's healthy boundaries. But for relationships where you can't really afford to cut people off or stop having a connection with people or not give, not only is it changing who you are, but at the same time, you're not being the best version of you with those you care about. So, and sometimes if people don't know, it's not their nature as it is for you to just be a natural giver, that they need to know. So ask for what you need, right? And let them know how much it means to you when they do that. And I was like, and I didn't feel safe hearing it. And when I think about it, I don't even feel safe saying it. It's almost like I would get this response of like, who do you think you are to ask for that? Or like, oh, you're feeling entitled. But I have this sense of like, it doesn't matter who it is. I step into that. I step into like offering service. And when I see people who are like me, who do it naturally, I know that that's who someone is. So it's fair to say that not everyone is like that, but I don't feel safe saying to people like, if you do this for me, this is what it would mean to me. Basically asking for what you need and letting them know what it would mean to you when they do it. And I was like, oh man, that doesn't feel safe. So that was also information that I had to accept and say, okay, I'm not feeling safe to do that. Where is that coming from? Like, even now I'm going to add that, because I want to go back and say, okay, I want to go deeper and peel the onion and say, what's up with that? How come I don't feel safe saying to some people, what I need, and trusting and feeling like they care enough to at least say I can or I can't, or even if it means this to you, I won't be able to do it. But just being vulnerable enough to say that, because it also feels like it's such a loving thing to do, to just say like, this is what it means to me. But it also means you put yourself in this place of knowing that you're worthy of it, that you're loved, right? And that's something that's coming up too that I want to talk to you guys about. So I want to just write this down. Not feeling worthy. Okay, so yeah, so that was one thing. So this is all things that were coming up for me, and they were kind of connecting with areas where I felt stuck emotionally, mentally, but also like emotions that I just couldn't pinpoint, like why were they there, right? And these videos were coming in to give me those clarities that allow me to then sit and journal with each one and explore them further, because I didn't have the clarity around those. Because the thing about healing is it never ends, right? We are constantly bringing up old wounds to heal, but as we're living, we're still experiencing life. So healing is not like I'm healed, I'm done. You might heal some area, but then there are going to be other things you need to grow. Healing is growing, basically. Let me drink my tea. The weather outside is a bit more cold, because just in the room temperature, my tea has already like become warmer, and I'm like, I'm gonna sip this in like 2 seconds. I need it to be hot the whole time. All right, so what was the next thing that I had written down? Okay, so this one was so interesting. Okay, it says people with history of trauma have something called a paralysis of initiation. which means that they're not a self-starter. Okay? And it goes, because when your goal is survival, you build some kind of like, it's almost like you from that experience of just needing to survive, you create almost like an organism, okay, whose whole job is to protect against what comes in. Okay? And so, and the problem with that thing, that which you create from just needing to survive, is you're not having an experience of like, your experience is basically just existing, because you're waiting for the worst thing to happen. Basically, your day-to-day is focused on survival, like what's the next storm, okay? And so for me, that was like, oh my God. It was that video was like the first video that kind of like, it opened this huge door. It's almost, imagine, I want to use this example of like hoarding, because that brings like, it gets your attention, right? But imagine having a room where you just closed off, has this huge door, and you have all these different things. Like, it could be a mixture of nice new things, old used things, whatever it is, all stuffed into that one closet with this huge, massive, heavy door. This information here was like, oh my God, you're answering so much for me. So what is it saying? Paralysis of initiation basically means you're not a self-starter, because your whole focus is on survival, and you're creating an experience of just existing. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that's my whole life, right? That's my whole life. And when I say just existing and surviving, like, I've done so many videos about, you know, being in an energy of just being frozen or disassociating, and all these different survival tools and methods that I have used in the past. And this is all stuff that the more I started exploring, the more it was coming to my awareness of what was happening. Because when you start questioning, like, how come I'm not experiencing life the way somebody over there is experiencing life? Why am I, and it's almost like in a hamster wheel, or why am I, it's almost like you're pedaling and you're going nowhere, and you see people walking. It's like the Mr. Bean movie where he tried to rob this person's, steal this person's like motorcycle, moped, or whatever. And he thinks he's going fast and it's not going anywhere. And the guy comes by, and I've used this before as an example. He's like, get off my bike. It's like you're pedaling and you're not going anywhere. You're like, why am I not going anywhere? So even when you try to be a self-starter, you're like in the same place, not going anywhere. It's not creating manifested results. Now to say things have changed because I've been conscious, right, in terms of creating my home. And sometimes I come into a certain space in my home and I'm kind of being shown this, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful, it's grand, it's wonderful. And then I'm like, but there's more to that, right? But it's also just to acknowledge, like, there was nothing and you created this, right? So that's also like the self-starter. But I feel like in most spaces, I'm like, I want to get there. Why can't I seem to get there? Why can't I seem to get to that room, to the next room, to the other room? Why do I feel like I'm always in this room? And you know how, like, if you look at the Egyptian architecture, like some of the homes where the steps are going down, but at the bottom of the stairs, you find yourself up where you just started, or even higher. It almost feels like that. It feels like you're going in circles and trying to understand, like, how do I get off this thing that's keeping me dizzy and just spinning me, so I can actually be an active participant in my life. Because it felt like I was not being an active participant in my life. It felt like it's almost like I'm being moved and manipulated and caused to, like, take actions that are not really my own, or when it comes for me to take actions that are my own, there's so much fear, paralyzing fear. Paralysis, what did he call it? Paralysis of initiation. Like, is there a better word for it? It's 100% true. Taking 2 steps forward and 20 steps back. 2 steps forward, 20 steps, like, that's insane. So to have a name assigned to something, and to this thing that I'm trying to make sense of, for it to have been, for someone to have made sense of it, I was like, oh my God, my head has been spinning for years trying to understand this. And despite all the finding myself in this like cycle, few years, few times, I've managed to progress, but I've always felt like it's controlled. I always felt like it's like I'm not really having the human experience. It's almost like I'm removed from it. It almost feels like I'm tasting something, but it's not my tongue that's tasting it. It's not my stomach that's eating it. It almost feels like, you know, like if you were to picture some kind of like, imagine there's a wall, okay? And behind the wall, there is a piggy bank or something. Like you're putting your money in that little, you know, space. But inside of it, someone or something has installed another cup where instead of what you're investing going into this whole body, this whole, and I'm saying this and I'm like literally having like this, it's almost like I'm solving and I'm seeing, putting puzzle pieces together, this analogy. It's almost like I'm pouring into something that's being taken out of me. So I'm not getting to really like have the nutrition that comes from the food, that comes from the lesson, that comes from the healing, that comes from the experience. It's like it's, you know, when someone doesn't have a stomach and their stomach has been removed, or their, is it their stomach? I think it's their stomach. So it's almost like it goes through this, and it goes through the intestines, and then it just, there's a pouch on the side. So it's like, but at least then it gets absorbed into the body. This is what I am now at this very moment realizing, what it feels like my experience. So that's one. And I've identified that I've been living in survival mode. I have identified it. To know there is such a name for like, for not taking initiative, because the aspect of you is just focusing on surviving. So it's not taking initiative towards that which you desire to experience, which goes back to the creative insecurity, right? Which goes back to also, I'm not supporting myself, my dreams, right? Which goes back to like not asking for what I need, because this all goes back into living. This all goes back to living, and living is the opposite of surviving. And I've been intentionally pursuing thriving and living. I've been like, my Instagram page is literally dedicated to me thriving, because I've noticed that I'm doing the healing and I'm releasing and peeling the onions and healing wounds, but I need to be intentional. Which brings me to another video that I'm not sure if I've written. I have to be intentional. This other video was talking about how you have to carve out, and I've heard this before, and that might be the thing that caused me to even create this intentional pursuit of joy. It talks about carving out 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, or, you know, twice a day, where you pause and do something that's joyful for you. Do you know how my mind, an aspect of my brain, is terrified just hearing that? Like, what do you mean we're going to pause and be in this intentional joy? Because my default setting used to be automatic sadness. I would experience joy, and then it's almost like the sadness was almost like a slide that you kind of just like, slide right into. It's almost like joy, right at the door of joy, you're sliding right into sadness. That's why even the movie, the kids movie, which all of us grown-ups have wanted to see with our kids, called Inside Out, was so significant, because yes, it's important to experience sadness and not to push it aside, but you can't live there. And of course, if you're in survival mode, you need to have those type of emotions as your default setting. And if that's the case, where is room for joy? Right? Because when you go to sadness, you go to anger, you go to fear, you go to anxiety, you go to all those things, it brings you right into survival. How can I protect us against this fear, from this sadness, from this anger? What's the protection mode? And so joy was definitely like, we're terrified to stay in that state, but joy is our divine birthright. Our state of joy is like our neutral default setting. It's like our natural default setting. Anything outside of joy, because joy is not a pursuit of someone having to do something for you, or you have to do an action to feel joy. Joy comes from the expression of the love you have inside, right? Joy is the expression of that love. Even resting is joyful, right? Jumping, skipping, singing, all of that is joyful. And those are all expression of this loving energy that is within us. So it doesn't belong to anybody associating or giving it to us. We have it. So that's our natural default. But because when you experience trauma, you put that aspect of you away. And I'm just sitting here going like, even though I understood this when I first watched the Joy movie, the Inside Out movie, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, like, I'm afraid to return to my state of joy. My natural state of joy. Like, it's not the me talking to you that's afraid. It's an aspect of me that's afraid. This like brain right here, that's like the front of the brain. It's like, can we do that? Can we afford that? And it's been such a long time that it's so unnatural. Sadness has become so natural, which is something that I've intentionally been releasing and saying, no, we're not sad. Nothing is happening right now to cause us to feel sad. But because my body has grown to that, or become so familiar with that, all of my nervous system just identify more with that. So returning to joy is like you're doing painful stuff, you're lifting weights, and it's one thing when you're trying to bring joy in your physical body, but your mind has all these different like navigation system that to rewire it's gonna kick your butt before it lets you in certain rooms. It's like, where are you coming trying to say we're gonna have joy, right? We're gonna have joy and live from that as our default setting. What do you mean you're gonna reset? You know when you get a phone, like sometimes you have to reset your phone. It's like my brain is going, what do you mean you need to reset? Like, you have to go back to the brain and reset. You have to go back to the heart and reset. You have to reset your energy field to be back in the state of joy. And that takes work. That takes healing techniques. That takes conscious rewiring. That takes process, peeling the onion, healing wounds, leaving them out long enough to be aired so that they can get the necessary type of healing, right? You know, when you get a cut, if you cover it up with bandage all the time, it's going to stay wet. You need to open it and let it get air and let it dry out until that skin starts to turn black and it gets so small it falls off. Like, this is what I'm realizing. Like, there's so much level to understanding aspects of yourself, understanding joy, your emotions, your feelings, and healing. In order for me to be able to create, I have to return to my natural state of joy and not fear, anxiety, and sadness, which are the emotions that are fear-based. And because they are fear-based, they are survival-based. And because they're survival-based, they create more experience of needing to constantly be on the lookout. Joy is more thriving, is more being present and having peace and relaxation and having faith and trusting and allowing God to flow divine love through you. Is laughter, is trust. Like, I feel like each side of my brain is like having this experience where it's like opposites mirroring itself, where it's like, you know, when you pull a string and it goes up and down like this, a tight string, and then finally balance out and it does this vibration where it's like, I feel like that's what my left and right side of my brain are doing with this information. It's like it's balancing itself out. And I have to tell you how grateful I am, how alhamdulillahi wa rabbil alameen. Like, I said to myself, I can't wait for one day. And this is after many years of healing and acknowledging and bringing to the present that something is going on with my brain, something is going on with my body. That I said, I can't wait for me to one day have my brain. I'm seeing all the like Olympic symbol, like the circles. Like, I can't wait for my brain to just be free. I felt like my brain was like twisted up in a knot and tangled, and right now it's almost like it's like rings that are like within each other. You see what I mean? Like rings that are like this, circles of rings that are like that. I've been struggling with this brain fatigue for so long, you don't understand. And that's been causing me to live in survival mode. And I've been intentionally allowing myself to let whatever struggles that I was having mentally to show up, and no matter the setting. Because you know, sometimes a certain emotion comes up and you're like, I'm at work, come later. And that's been many years that I've done that too. Like, you know how like mothers are crying and then your kids come in the room and then you're like putting your tears away, or constantly putting it away. But in the last couple of years, I have been really intentional with letting that little girl who has experienced all this trauma show herself and show that trauma and the effect of the trauma. Like the brain fog, insane. The eyesight blurriness, insane. Like to the point where like it hurts, which I know I have to go and check out. But literally allowing my brain to show up, and then having the experience where you're being judged or like looked at as if, how come you don't remember this? I don't remember it. Because I've developed a technique of how I need to remember things, but it was like a harder way, a more difficult way. Because that connective ability to retrieve information, there was like a disconnect, right? So I've been giving myself grace knowing that. And I'm sure there is like clinical support that can help me heal that. But just for me identifying it was already like a reason for me to exhale. Because then I know, okay, what is the next step? And allowing myself to show up with those struggles no matter where, and not being ashamed of that aspect of me, and not being ashamed that I was experiencing those responses, was already helpful, because it was almost like I was grabbing all of me and having all of me present. Not just saying, okay, you're not good enough, so you stay hidden in the back. or you're not good enough, so you're not doing this to stay there. No. All aspects of me are coming with me no matter where I'm going. I love all of me. And I had enough of hiding aspects of me because of the fear of being judged, of criticized, of not being loved and accepted and included. And like, I can stand all good by myself. Anything else is extra because I have divine support all the time. And as I'm doing my healing work, that's more and more and more clear to me that I've always had divine support. We all do. And so when I lean into that more and more and trusted in my faith, then I was getting better at healing myself, because there isn't a right time to pause and heal yourself. Not everyone can take a day off every other day to heal themselves. So every day is your terrain, it's your platform, is your space of healing yourself. Allow that aspect of you to just show up. Because that aspect of you, if they're so angry, they're not going to just show up when you're at home and relaxing. No, they're going to show up in places where they're going to sabotage. Because you buried me. You pushed me way in the back. And so, no, I'm going to come up here in this place when you don't want me to. That's how angry that aspect of you is. But when you're like, nobody else matters to me more than all aspects of me, and I need for us to heal, and I need for us to be better, and I need for us to love us, bring it on. Like, bring it on. Like, I love you. I love you, all broken parts of us. I love you. And so as I acknowledge that that's what I've been doing, I feel so good. Like, why should I be ashamed of that part of me that struggled? Right? And I was thinking the other day, I don't know what was the thing that had come up, but it was in reference to, like, we used to have, my dad would hire like a teacher to come help us do our homework and learn our schoolwork after school. And I remember that professor, for some reason, like when he would try to help me, because we would sit around the table, my siblings and I would just get up and I would walk away and I would start like kicking rocks and just go lean on the wall. I was like disinterested. I was not interested at all. But because of my trauma. And I remember it's almost like a bigger part of me just pulling me to get up and go do that, or like something. Do you see what I'm saying? And when I think about it now, I think about how I was using that as a tool to protect myself, because I was like, if I'm going to be in a learning environment that's going to then cause me to be attacked, I'm not going to put myself in any learning environment. Oh no, we're not doing that. And so at an earlier age, and we're smart, like kids are so smart, it's like you learn these safety tools and mechanism early on, right? So this paralysis of initiation was like, it was right on. So for me, I was like, okay, the survival mode was causing that. So I'm conscious of that now. So now I need to know when I'm not taking initiative somewhere, it's due to what. And there's something else that is, okay, oh, yes, it's coming up. So let me save it, because it's talking about how other things will show up. So I'm going to go ahead. So this is the fourth thing that I'm going to introduce right now. So this is all things that have come up for me in the last couple of days in terms of helping me peel the onion. And so this one, whew, and all of these have caused me to have this deep exhale, because I was like, oh my God, I really needed this clarity. Now, this goes into playing small. Playing small will make the problem even bigger. Okay? Trying to fit in a space that is trying to fit into a space that is not made for me Okay, it does not work, because, and trying to fit in a space that is not made for me will make you become uncomfortable. And I'll talk to you guys about that. Life does not want me to play small. Stop playing small with people who require for you to be less than who you are for them to be okay. So it wasn't necessarily, it was a little bit about that, but not so much about that. And it goes, when you are going to do big things, which means you need a room, okay? When doing the work when you are going to do big things, which means you need room, you can't play it small. So you start to fidget, and this was the word, fidgeting. When you're doing the work that you're not supposed to do, you become fidgety. And let me tell you, that is my whole professional work experience, becoming fidgety, playing small, uncomfortable. Oh my God. So you know what's happening? Let me tell you what's happening. Becoming fidgety, nervous, can't remember, brain fog. So glad I can laugh about it now. Because sometimes I'm literally like, my eyes, why aren't you seeing? This thing is right there. Like, let me tell you a story. So I do a lot of contract work, okay? And I do a lot of admin contract work, and I work for an agency. And so I have small contracts, large contracts, anywhere from 2 years to like 3 months to 6 months or whatever. And I started seeing it as a way of like me getting to pick up skills, which was not really happening because it was like there wasn't much training, but that's not the point. But it was allowing me to see if I was a great fit for those jobs. And a lot of them I was like, no, this is not a good fit. And some of them were, and then those that were, God is like, no, that's not a place for you. And I get booted. I'm like, God, I was just getting comfortable. Why are we doing this? Again, it was settling. It was not meaning, it's like you learning to be comfortable with something doesn't mean that it's the right thing for you, right? But let me tell you how. So I was working somewhere, and I was managing, I would receive emails. And in that email, the whole time I thought this one person had a certain name. I thought they belonged to a certain gender. And then I no longer worked with that department or section or whatever. And then I was being interviewed by this person for another job who I kept seeing their email before and thought they belonged to this one gender. So that day, first of all, talk about spiritual warfare, not wanting you to progress in certain areas of your career. And at the same hand, I could say the divine was saying that's not for you, but like, how many things are not for me? Like, quand même. Okay. So I'm being interviewed, and okay. First of all, I couldn't open up Teams on my phone. It was hating on me. My laptop, the charger that I bought a year ago, messed up, so I couldn't use my laptop. My Wi-Fi was bugging. Oh my God. The person accepted for us to meet to do the meeting on WhatsApp. So when we finally see each other, or before that, literally, and it wasn't the gender I was expecting, so I was like, oh, so maybe there's another person coming. I should have said that or something, but I was like, I asked them like who they were, because I was like, I wanted to clarify, because I was expecting somebody else. So the whole time my eyesight was bugging from then. So basically the letter I, was it an I? I was seeing it as the letter L and small letters. I was seeing it as an I don't know. So after that interview, I was like, oh my God, for months before, my sight was like having these difficulties and I didn't fully catch it. I knew certain things because it had already started, because I worked from home in front of the computers for 2 or 3 years. It was crazy. But I didn't know how bad it got. After that interview, I knew. And I was like, what kind of sabotage was that? Was that personal sabotage? Was it spiritual warfare? What was that? Was it just my eyesight? Okay, so whenever I experience those type of things, I become intentional. I'm like, no, we're gonna double check, we're gonna triple check, and then it puts you in this paranoia state where, like, did I really check? Should I make sure? And I don't like to live in that, because that was, again, associated to surviving, right? Constantly checking to make sure, so you're living in a state of fear. And my most recent job, the memory, like, forget about it. The memory in terms of retrieving, when I was younger, from like, I think when I was in junior high, is when I started junior high. I noticed it, but I didn't fully acknowledge it. I think in high school is when I started thinking about like there were things I wasn't remembering, and I was kind of like, oh, I'll just ask this person. I was kind of like making it like I'll go back and ask that person. So that was my technique for that. It was like, because I had developed this tool where I categorize things, and that I think came a little bit later on, where I became more conscious and intentional, where I would, if you tell me a certain type of information, it's almost like I take it and I go into the drawer and I put it in, and then I tell myself, this is what I put it in, this is how I can remember it. Like, I had to be intentional. It wasn't like where your brain just saved it somewhere. No, I wasn't having that connection where my brain just saved it, so when I needed to go, like, whoop, let me go retrieve it. No, that wasn't the case for me. So in high school, I noticed that, so I was like, I'll just ask, you know. My older sister, the one right before me, was one of the people where I'll just ask in terms of this. So much memory I don't have from childhood that sometimes she'll bring it up and I'm like, no, I don't remember that. And then I started thinking maybe selective remembering. No. So when I understood it was actually the retrieval, that there was a disconnect, I was like, oh, I got to do something about this, right? I still got to do something about that. So, and then I was ashamed about it, and being ashamed about it made me hide it or try to like cover it up. But that's why I'm telling you now, in my current work, I'm just acknowledging it. I'm not being ashamed when I don't remember. And I've decided, and I've made a decision in the last couple of days, and just in the last couple of days, mind you, because I felt like I was trying to go in a different way to see what kind of support I can get around that. But I decided that I'm just going to go to my family doctor, and I'm going to take this path of understanding, like, what's happening with my eyesight, what's happening with my memory, and how can I heal this retrieval ability. And so, but in the meantime, I've been just like, because it comes across like you're incompetent. It comes across of like you would fit in the category of somebody who's slow. And I'm all aware of that. And what was interesting, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where when I made the decision that I wasn't going to be embarrassed by it, because it was I go back to this where I talk about how if someone was born with this, would we shame them for it? And this is something that resulted from an attack that was never diagnosed, that was never addressed, that was never properly handled. And as I am in my 40s, I've started my healing journey, I want to say 12 years ago, being more conscious and peeling the onion and doing the spiritual work. But even just becoming aware of like like when I was in my mid-teens, I used to walk around with my head down because I was just embarrassed of like who I was, in the sense of like if I didn't like my clothes, or um, I just had this sense of like hidden, and I don't even know the full embarrassment was for what. Like I would just walk and I wasn't making eye contact with people, and then when I caught that about myself, I was like, no. But it took me time to practice differently, right? And so I understand how this is coming across like, oh, she can't remember these things, you know, she must be slow. Yeah, my brain is slow to responding to retrieving this information or to retaining it. So again, to retain it, I had taught myself different ways to retain information. But it's a harder technique. So I feel like I'm returning, or my body, my being is asking me to return to the natural way of retaining information and retrieving information. And so I have to now seek that type of healing, whether it's a medical type of healing in the sense of like a physical practice of something I have to do, or it's a spiritual type of healing that I have to do. But I am intentionally not seeking it because it's at the point where it's calling for my attention so much that I'm not embarrassed of it, I'm not ashamed of it, and I don't want to hide it anymore. But I don't know what are the ways to heal it. But at least I am now making I'm taking the action towards finding that out. And so in terms of being fidgety and playing small, you know, is that injured aspect of me that I had pushed down showing up that way, being all fidgety. But just to understand that when something is not for you, you become fidgety. When you're trying to squeeze yourself somewhere, you become uncomfortable. And then I was like, I wonder if that's what's happening. Like I've been going down this path, which is not my purpose, for so long, that is my nervous system shutting down on me? Is it saying you're going, like, you know, you're going the wrong way, you're going too far off the path? But I feel like I am more and more awakening. So what is the path? Is the awakening not the path? And so there is this understanding and acceptance that, okay, your body will tell you when you're in the wrong place, when you're doing the wrong thing. Don't wait till you become physically ill to accept and acknowledge and change that. Could that be why my eyesight is struggling in that sense? Could that be why? But for my memory, my eyesight, that's more recent, but my memory, that's been like since childhood. So that's something due to the trauma. So, but at least I can understand like the discomfort. It's that. But I want to make sure that the eyesight is not just my body saying no, like this is not for us. Or maybe like sometimes when people, their spiritual gifts is awakening, is becoming more heightened. Sometimes you will have those issues first before it gets to be like you can really see beyond what the physical eyes can see. So that one I have to sort through, but I just was like, oh, it's a good reminder, because yeah, when you're not doing the thing that's right for you, your body will tell you, right? You will be uncomfortable, you will feel uneasy, and that's a clear intuitive indication. So I was curious to say, oh, I wonder if that's what's happening. But to talk it out, I understand that from my memory, it could only be that since I was a kid, if I decided that I'm gonna no longer pursue the path I wanted, that all this time I have been pursuing something completely opposite, then that makes sense, where my memories like won't let me get to that original desire. So it's almost like more and more forgetting rather than allowing me to experience the remembering of who I am, right? Remembering who I am at my core, and not just this this identity that I've associated myself to be. Maybe I'm not that. And if I can't remember, then I won't be able to return to that. I won't be able to claim it. And so that was that in terms of the fidgety. Let's see. Brave videos. Yes, it did. So yeah, I was like, I really needed to hear that. From life at large. I'm just reading the message here that I wrote down. Okay, core needs to be met to feel safe. Okay, so this one was really good. But before I go there, in terms of, I can't remember, like there's so much videos. I think I was gonna go back and watch that one, but it talked about how not really knowing, like is that who you really are? Because if you've been in survival mode, and I think it was that video that talked about when you're in survival mode, you know, it's like, is that who you really are? Because the life you've created. Oh my God, what was the video? Yes, it was talking about how the life you created is all out of survival mode. It's all out of survival mode. So now it's like, that's not your real life. That's not who you are, because you haven't been creating your experiences based on who you are. You've been creating it based out of fear. Like, you know, like if you say you're gonna build a home and you're like, I'm gonna build this home and I'm gonna make sure no one comes in to attack me. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna put fences up, you're gonna put locks on the doors, you're gonna put all these barriers to keep anyone from the outside coming in. And then you start creating within the house more rooms where you can then hide or not be easily attacked, even if someone were to come in. So you create this whole life out of this fear, and then you're trying to have a good experience with it. This makes sense. This is, oh my God, this makes sense. This is, whew. This makes sense, because it's like, all of this is not real. It's not that it's not real. It's not the life that I would have created. It's not the life I would have created. Not to say that the people that are in my life, the children that I have, or like, yes, all of that, yes. All of that, yes. But it's almost like even when I say that I went into administration as a career path or as a job, because it was supposed to be temporary, because I was having my third child and I wanted to go into the workforce, because I had finished school and I didn't use my diploma, and I was like, I want to start my own business. I want to do import-export, but I was putting that on hold. So I went into like being an admin assistant, being a admin and like a receptionist, and being in that field. But that was always supposed to be temporary. But then I just started expanding on that. I did more of the similar type of tasks. And so when I get to a place where they're like, oh, we need this, I have those skills, but it's almost like you're still doing this temporary thing when you don't need to. So when are you going to get back to what you want to do? So it's not about anything that I have. It's about the things I want to create. So it's not about, how can I say this? Like, I get it. I get that it's about the type of work that I want to do, how I want to serve, the type of experiences that I want to have. I haven't created that. So that's because sometimes I look out at like the home that I have designed, and I'm like, it's pretty, it's beautiful. But it's, to me, it's always like it's a dangling of a carrot. It's like it's a distraction. I'm always going like, yeah, but what? Like that's not bringing me joy. And I get now why that's the case. Right? I get now why that's the case. That's why I get why I've been saying that. The reason I've been saying that is because I've been off my path, and I have been creating off of my path a life of experiences. I don't know why all these different wild animals are passing by. I've created this lifestyle, I should say, not life, lifestyle that's never been my intention to experience. Like, or it's been an experience of like playing small. It's been an experience of going in and like I'm a homebody, but at the same time, I love to explore the world. Like I've wanted to be a flight attendant when I was younger. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to experience different cultures. I wanted to like peek into like, you know, when Oprah would have this one episode or whatever where she's like to see what people are doing in their house, that I was always curious about, like, how are the people living, right? I wanted to taste the world. I wanted to fly free, like, you know. And even though I love the comfort of my home, my space, fear has kept me from spreading my wings. Fear has caused me to create a lifestyle of safety. And that was never my intention. So I've been creating a lifestyle that doesn't resemble me, doesn't resemble who I really am and what I really want to experience and who I want to be. And playing small is exactly what I've been doing. No wonder things haven't been like working out. No wonder I haven't been able to like find a certain career and just get comfortable in it, because I've been on the wrong path. And so to know that all of the lifestyle that I've created, it's not, c'est pas moi. It's been fear. This is the result I've created. It's, even though it's beautiful, this lifestyle, but it's a lifestyle created out of fear. Could you imagine what it would look like when I create out of joy? Could you imagine what that would look like when I start creating from a space of joy? Oh. So this whole lifestyle, this whole like personality, this whole, it's not me. It's a result of playing it safe. I've been playing it safe, I know that. But I didn't know that the life I was creating, or the lifestyle that I've created, was from taking decisions that were playing it safe. Play it safe and do that. Play it safe and do that. Play it safe and pick that. Play it safe and do that. I'm gonna change that. I'm changing that. I'm changing that. I don't know if this angle where my phone is the bomb or not, but okay, we're just leaving it. Let's go to the last one, which is a very good one. But I've watched so many videos in between that have brought my awareness to like understanding so much of what I need to understand in this end of chapter as I step into my new chapter. Because listen, going into the new chapter, you need new information. You need new tools, right? You need like a new wardrobe. You need to go into, like I said, I'm coming into 2024 looking like a wow. Like a wow, right? And I needed to kind of like go through the inventory of the things, of the old wounds and emotions, and understand like what things were, so I can categorize What has to go? What's to be decluttered? Like tossed, donated, keep, put in the trash. What? And this is what it has given me. So I feel so grateful. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to do 3 more conscious breaths, okay? Oh, amen. Amen. Oh. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. It's a long video, but great conversation is great conversation, right? All right. So that was number 4. Number 5, cultural trauma. Cultural trauma. So this video, the lady, I believe she was a psychologist, a therapist. She talked about core needs that need to be met in order to have a safe and healthy relationship. Like, you know how we out there trying to partner up, you know? And we know that when you're wounded and when those wounds are not being addressed, you're going to attract according to those wounds, right? So it's called, what is it called? Toxic attraction? Oh, I don't know. There's a name. I know there's a name, and if I remember it, I will say it. So the core needs she listed was feeling safe, feeling seen, soothed, supported. They shape our beliefs about ourselves and others. So, you know how I like to give you examples of how that's showing up in my life, right? Or how that has shown up in my life. So the trauma that I had experienced as an attack, the trauma of being attacked at school at a young age. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel seen because no one saw that I was being attacked. I didn't feel supported because I didn't get the right type of therapy, whether that was cognitive therapy, whether that was emotional therapy, whether that was physical therapy. I didn't get the support that I needed. And soothed, I felt like somebody said to me, like, if others find out, you will be shamed. And so sometimes when I have certain emotions that come up that make me feel sad, and I'm there by myself, and because the thing that I've learned is you don't turn to those that you are responsible for to take care of you, which makes sense. You go to elders, right? Your older siblings, and even then, that doesn't mean that it's their responsibility. You go to your parents, aunts and uncle, people that like were supposed to be elders in your life. And when I don't have that, I say, God, can you hold me? Can you soothe me? So there's been so many times where when I was younger, I used to suck my thumb, so I used to soothe myself that way. And so, of course, then, like, over the years, when I begun my healing, and even before, I identified that I was emotionally eating, so I was soothing that way. Every now and then, I would get myself an ice cap, and that was soothing to me, which is like a sweet beverage that is. But, so I looked for healthier ways to soothe myself. I wasn't the kind, like, and there were times where I used shopping as soothing myself too. And I think lately I've been picking that up a little bit, because it's like, if you look this way, others will love you. And it's like, go back to understanding why you need others to love you. What's coming up? What is the wound that's coming up? What's being triggered? That you feel like in this moment, if I buy this particular thing and people see me wearing this thing, they will value me, they will love me, and they won't hurt me. So it's bringing up the trauma that I experienced, this attack at school, right? is to feel safe, but to feel seen. Why do I want to be seen? So that I could be protected, so that I wouldn't be hurt. So this is the big trauma that I've experienced. That was, it's almost like this Velcro that so much attached to it. It's like a magnet. It might be a little bit hard to separate, but Velcro causes that like stretching and that sound where it's almost when you have a bandage and you get stuck on your wound. It's a bit painful to pull out, but it's like that. So if I'm seen, then I will be safe, then I'll be protected. I would be loved, and then I wouldn't be hurt, that I wouldn't be attacked if I was loved. But it's almost like if you want to be seen while an attack is happening, they will come and stop the attack. But where is the needing to look a certain way that's going to make you feel loved? Like that part I need to explore more. It's like if I wear this pretty dress, people are going to think I am worthy of love. Okay, I need to write that down because it's like, what's happening there? Pretty dress. Others will see that you have worth, that you're somebody, that you are somebody, and not a nobody, and not a nobody. Then you will be valued, protected, but first seen. Oh, the first seen as somebody. I wasn't recognized because of what I was wearing. Was not recognized that I was somebody important to have intervened, because when I was being attacked, I did see that there were some people there, and I think they thought that I wasn't belonging to their tribe or their ethnic group or something, and they didn't think they needed to intervene or something. They didn't recognize. I did. This is crazy. They did not see, they did not think that I belonged to their tribe, culture. Oh my God. It's insane. I never made that connection before. You see, growing up, and this is why I'm like, I struggle with this part, right? Like, I come from a family that was financially like comfortable, but sometimes there were moments where I didn't dress, like maybe because I was a kid who always played outside, or maybe because I had outgrown myself, but I didn't always show that I came from a family that was financially comfortable. But my question is, even if I wasn't from a family that was financially comfortable and someone had seen something happening, shouldn't they intervene? Shouldn't they intervene, like, and protect a child from being attacked? This had never, ever, ever come up for me in all of my years of doing healing on this attack. Like when I was younger, one of the reasons where I even wanted to start designing clothes was we used to have these wooden dolls that we used to play with, and they were like fantastic because you could glue extensions to it and braid their hair. And coming up in my community, you would go buy fabric and you would bring it to like the seamstress, and they would make the clothes that you want. Like it was fresh off the rack, like you made it, you designed it. You buy the fabric and say, measure me, I want this, I want that, and they make it for you. And so we had those tailleurs that would sew your clothes. And so we would, like a whole bunch of us kids would go to the market at a time that we weren't allowed to go. And the tailleurs would be like finished, like the seamsters would be done, and there'd be a whole bunch of small fabrics. And it was like a rainbow. It was raining fabric. It was stunning fabric. And I remember I wanted all of them. I wanted the ones I picked, the ones others picked. I was like, and I would come home and we would design clothes for our wooden dolls. And it's not that there weren't other dolls. And there's a story about a doll that I can tell you, which is very unique too, because I had an aunt that lived in the US when I had family in the US when I lived back home in Africa. So she sent me this beautiful tall doll that was like, it was the size of like a toddler. So it wasn't an issue of like plastic dolls being available, but we had these traditional dolls in my community, like that were made out of woods, and I won those today. And I would design clothes for my wooden doll because I didn't want her to be naked. I wanted to cover her. I didn't want her to be exposed. And so I felt like if she was covered, she wouldn't be shamed and embarrassed and humiliated. Like I was covering her. You know, when you cover someone's honor, I was covering her honor. Because subconsciously I knew what had happened to me. But to make the connection in terms of me saying that I have to dress a certain way so others can value and love me, whether it's for my clothes or my shoes, and having that be rooted in the fact that when I was being attacked, I didn't look like someone that came from a family that had money, which wasn't the case. But so what? I didn't look like a kid that came from a family that had money. I looked like a nobody. I looked like a nobody. And so I dress up to look like a somebody so that no one hurts me. So that they love me instead. So that they love me instead. Even if that means I buy what I can't afford. You see how that wasn't from the space of the adult? And that was what the child, the wounded child, needed to do as a survival method? I need to put that here. The child was buying what we could not afford, all in some moments, to meet the survival need of being seen and loved and not attacked. Could you imagine how could I have stopped the inner child, the wounded inner child? How could I have? If that was still registered in us, as we need this to survive. We need to buy these shoes so we can survive, so we're not attacked. We need to buy these clothes so that that makes me so that's why I'm always saying, like, you don't know why people are doing something. You don't know why my wounded child was doing that, spending money that we need for other things, because we needed to survive. That was more important, that we don't get attacked. But it was conflicting with our basic needs to have a roof over our head, to have food to eat. You see why you have to keep peeling the onion? You see why you have to keep peeling the onion to do the work to heal yourself? Because there's deeper reasons. It can be a sabotage that your inner child is doing, which sometimes is the case to get your attention. But this one here, this one was survival. Which was conflicting with our true survival needs, such as a roof, food, and clothing. So the survival to not be attacked was competing with the survival of having your the survival, excuse me, I need to write this down. Survival for not wanting to be attacked was in competition with meeting your true current basic needs. You see that? I'm so grateful that you guys are on this journey of healing yourself, and thank you for coming along as I talk it through. Because when I talk it through, I always receive the clarity that I need from it. And so let's see here what else I have written down. So you learn what you need to do to be in order to be saved, which I just demonstrated for you guys what was happening with the soothing of, like, it was also soothing, but it was even more than soothing. It was about being safe. So spending to have this experience of being respected through how you dressed, and because you're respected, your boundaries will be respected. So your body won't be attacked, right? Respected boundaries. Well, then be respected and not attacked. I'm telling you, when they say do the work, you gotta do the work. And she goes to talk about how when you learn that your needs don't matter, that others have to be happy first. I don't know if that applies to me so much, but I do know that I did pick up some behaviors of being a people pleaser in some areas. And she talks about how when you put people's needs before yours, you're doing it so that you can avoid getting hurt, right? It's almost like explaining, let me see, cognitive, what did I write here? That I am using a current roadmap to get out of this bed. Because as long as they are happy, we will be safe. Yeah. So it's almost like, if you don't, like she used the example of being spanked. So whatever the reason that you were spanked, it's like you have to make sure that whatever made that person unhappy caused them to beat you, like you have to make sure you don't repeat that. So whatever makes them happy is what you have to do so that you can avoid being beat, avoid the pain. So from that experience, you learn that in order to be safe, you have to make sure other people are happy first. So you learn to put your needs last. So, this is something that I think I've healed, because I think for me it used to show up as people withholding love for me if I didn't do what they wanted, or if I didn't show up like pleasing to them, like serving them in a sense of like catering to them, if I didn't cater to them. But I had addressed that a couple of years ago, so I don't feel like in terms of that's coming up for me. But I'm so surprised that the clothing and shoes thing came up for me just through understanding, like talking it out loud in terms of those basic needs. I didn't feel safe. So one of the ways I started telling myself that I needed to be safe was if I dress a certain way, that I'm going to be respected. And if I'm respected, I won't be attacked, because I was attacked because I didn't look like I was somebody's kid, because I didn't look like I was like somebody important. So I looked like, you know, no one would care if I was attacked. And I don't know, did anybody care that I was attacked? Nobody knew. My attack was kept hidden. And I was told that I would be shamed if people knew. And so I buried it. Took me a long time with so many different type of professional support, with different healers, for it to surface, for me to acknowledge. And that's why I'm consciously doing my healing work, so that I could get to the bottom of it and start living from my core, start living from the authenticity of who I am, of living from the natural setting of a human being, which is joy. And so, yeah, like in terms of people thinking you have to cater to them, yeah, I put that to rest. And I think what's coming up that I'm also like not tolerating is people feeling entitled. And I recently was challenged with that as well, because I felt like I was entitled to somebody's love because they made me believe that I was so special to them, that I always had access to that love. And until it was almost like access denied, that I was like, no, no, you told me I was special. You told me that I was entitled to this love. But I understand from previously, from spirituality, nobody belongs to anybody. We don't have entitlement over anybody. I don't have entitlement over my kids. I'm not entitled to their love, nor my parents. I'm not entitled to anything. People can choose to give me freely. And so when we think that we are in a relationship, in an intimate relationship with someone, we think they belong to us. That's my wife. That's my husband. That's my... I read this one quote before, and I'm not remembering the full thing, but there's parts of it that I really like. It said, give your children wings to fly and give them reason to come back. That's it. I'm loving my children from that consciousness that they're not mine. I share them with the world. They have so many other people that, especially the older ones, they have other people that are important in their life too. So it's not just mine. No. There are other people that have contributed into their world. Those people are also significant. And those people get to experience them. I don't get to say no. Especially when it's in a way that they choose, especially when it's a way that is important to them, especially in a way that is positive. Of course, when it's younger, we play a role of like sheltering who comes into their world. But as they grow, we give them wings to fly and we give them a reason to come back. And so this is how I want to love. And this is how I want to think of, and so I'm grateful for this lesson that I received recently. And I didn't know that that was the lesson that I was to receive. I kept getting that there's a lesson in that, because sometimes you want to cut and like chop. Because when you bring up things from the past, you're like, oh, that's in the past. Like, that's not really, you're like, just get rid of it. But this is where the decluttering has an important process. You need to go through where you need to get the lesson from, where you need to say, okay, this serves me in this way, because decluttering is not just physical things. It's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, energetical, cutting cords, cutting attachments, releasing. And so when this was coming up, I was like, it's not in my everyday life, even though I wanted this thing from the past, like it didn't manifest itself the way I wanted to in the past, so I'm gonna just let it go. And it kept showing up, and I'm like, what? And then when I watched this one video that talked about the entitlement that we have over people's love, we need to stop it. And I was like, what? Are you talking to me? So the people who made me feel like I was like the only woman in their world, I was like, I felt so entitled to that love. It's like, no, why would you change that? I've done nothing. Why would you change that? And so it's like, no, you're supposed to always have room for me, or always receive me in this form. And to learn, like, people can change their mind for no reason, or for all and every reason. But that we're not entitled to say how they should love us. Well, we can say how we want to be loved. No, okay, wait. Ms. Van Zandt said, we can't tell people how to love us. But what we can do is we can see how they are loving, and we can make a decision if we want to take part in that. Right? See how somebody's already showing love, and decide if that fits what you want. Instead of saying, no, you need to love me this way and that way. Because then you're telling people how to be. You're trying to change people. And so I love the way I love. And I don't want people to come and tell me I'm loving too much, or I'm loving this way or that way. Like, I get to decide. And so learning that, I was like, ooh, this is what I was doing. I was feeling entitled to the love that they extended towards me, where they always gave me access. And now that I'm being denied access, even though it's in the past, this is coming up to tell me that lesson, that don't ever feel entitled. So I knew this. Abraham Hicks talks about how nobody belongs to you. And I've always taken that away, where I've seen people are like attached to like somebody in a way that is like they belong to them. And I used to always be like, nobody belongs to you. But I get it, because when I was married, I felt that way. But the reality is, that's the biggest heartbreak you're ever going to have, when you start walking around thinking somebody belongs to you. And that love is like, you're entitled to it. You're my partner and that's mine. And so free yourself. And when somebody is choosing to extend their love towards you, enjoy it. Right? Enjoy it. And I don't know where gratitude fits in that, but they're not doing you a favor, because you are a lovable person. You're deserving of love. You should experience love. Love should be extended towards you. But that doesn't mean everyone will extend it towards you. So if someone says, oh, I love you, I'm extending my love towards you, that's their choice. Right? That's their choice. They can change their mind. But if they're doing it from a place where they feel like if they take it away, you have no value, that's a lie. And that's why we have to be very careful with that, because when we think that we get our worth from people loving us, it's where my original survival need was developed from the attack, thinking, okay, I'm not loved. I was attacked. Oh, I need people to love me. I need people to love me. How do I get people to love me? You do this, you do that, you wear this, you wear that, get people to love you. And then you feel like, no, I'm entitled to your love. You should love me. It's like, no, people should love you, but you can't control when people don't love you. Yeah, people shouldn't hurt you. They shouldn't hurt you, but you can't control. You can, yes, you can to your best of ability, but some things are not. Even if I were to go in the grander scheme of things, we came as a soul to learn this lesson. So yes, we do have control of the lessons we want to learn. So in that sense, yes. So what do I want to say? Something's not sitting well with me with what I just said. You can control who you let into your life. You can control, even if someone says, I love you, I want to love you, I want to shower you with love. If you don't want it, you can say no to it. Right? So, and in some ways, in many ways, you can control if people get to hurt you or not. Because you get to decide what it means, first of all. And you get to decide if you give them access, first of all. Second of all. And so yeah, there are a lot of things you can do so that you can protect yourself from people's pain. But you have to make sure you're not living from that space of fear, where you then are operating in a survival mode, where you're creating these barriers, these walls, these constant shields, and living from survival rather than living in peace and joy. And so the next time you feel like you're entitled to somebody's love, I would say reclaim your heart. Don't think like that. Pour back into your heart. When I say reclaim your heart, there's a part of your heart that needs more love. Let divine love flow through that. Do the work of personal growth so that you can pour love back into you, so that you're not seeking love externally. Okay? And so you're worthy of love, and others should love you, but you don't need other people's love. You have your own. God equipped you with your love, with your source of love. Everything else is like a cherry on the cake. It's icing. Because it comes, it decorates, and it falls off. It doesn't really stick. It's like an exterior feature. It's not an internal thing. And so You're worthy of love because you have love. God gave it to you. And you're sufficient. You have your own love. You don't need others to love you. And someone doesn't have to belong to you. You're just going to experience their loving ways, and that's enough. So, is there anything else I want to say? I want to say your love is enough. Your love is sufficient. And you don't need anyone to love you. You can love you. Go love yourself. And I know that it's not an easy job when you have forgotten, when you've been attacked. I know it's not an easy job. I'm not just saying that as if like, oh, pathetic you don't even love yourself. No one loves you, you know. No, sorry, forgive me. Not any of that. I'm trying to say, I hope that you can find the tools necessary to help you to do the work that allows you to reconnect with the love inside of you, the love that you are. Because others need their love for themselves. And when they are expressing their love towards you, they are just using you like a bouncing board. So that love can go right back to them. That's all. Not even using you as a negative. It's just you're a bouncing ball. When I send my love out, I'm just bouncing it so that I could see it, and then it comes right back into me. See you, love you, do the work to return back to the love you have for you. And yes, it's hard, and you can do it. It's hard, and you can do it. And I hope that you seek out a healthy ways to do it, and that you find that love again. It's a long video. You watch it if you like. If you don't, you don't. But if one person gets one thing from it, then I've said enough. And love you, okay? And if someone is sweet to you, just enjoy it. It's like putting blush on your cheeks. Just enjoy. But don't associate it to your worth. Don't say, that person loves me, so I'm worthy of love. You're always worthy of love. That person loves you because they're choosing to love you. And it doesn't change your worth, because you're always worthy of love. Okay? So, I think I like when I do notes. It's almost like doing some research, taking a process and applying it. I hope so much for us to find and reclaim ourselves. Could you imagine the whole time I've been living a lifestyle that does not reflect who I really am? Because I haven't been operating from who I really am. I've been operating from survival, not from joy. So watch me. Hey, watch me, world. Watch me, world. As I start to emanate joy, as I start to just make joy, not even make it, just return to my natural default setting, joy. It's gonna be a process. I'm not sure if it's gonna be overnight, because it's an unlearning it's like stopping of doing something. The unlearning sometimes is not unbraiding something or untying something. It's the stopping of doing a certain behavior. So this is where I'm going to unlearn a previous behavior by stopping that behavior and start taking new actions that create new behaviors. Okay? I'm Fazia. You have tuned to False Journey Across the Bridge, where I am doing my healing work as you can see, sometimes as I talk it out, I get more clarity, I receive more awareness, and I'm divinely guided, and it's like I'm being walked out of a tight place, a maze. I'm being walked out of like a stuck place, and sometimes you get to witness it for yourself. So thank you for tuning in. I love you for coming on this human journey with all of us. We're here to help echo to one another so we can hear it and say, oh, I hear this vibration, it's telling me something, and we can begin the journey within so that it can manifest without. And if you like anything I've shared, please like the button, please click the like button. And if you like it so much, I hope you share it with someone. Maybe it might help them too. And I seem to be posting when my videos are actually being uploaded, because one is like I mentioned, it's just in the processing mode where it's uploading. Maybe I said something in my video that's not supposed to be said by the YouTube restrictions. I don't know. Click notification bell. And if I'm saying something that makes some kind of sense, or if I'm just here talking to myself, if you happen to pass by as I'm talking to myself and you think it's a cool space, well, subscribe so that you can continue peeking in, so that you know you're invited in this conversation. Okay? All right, take care. Bye.